Do you want me to talk to you or to camera? Or to
You can talk to me. It's fine.
Okay.
All right. So, what impact do you think that the entire theater scene has on British culture?
Wow. That's a massive question, isn't it? I come from a sort of a part of the country where Shakespeare was massively resonant and important. I grew up not far from Stratford, so for me, theatre and culture and British life has sort of been incredibly tightly knit. I used to go to Stratford a lot when I was young and see Shakespeare, and I think theatre, luckily, as actors, we're really lucky that I think here theatre is massively tied into the way people see entertainment, the way people see going out and embracing stories, and so I don't know if it would be the same all over the world, but I certainly feel like here there's a wonderful appreciation for the art of theatre that you can't replicate on screen, and I think that the way of life for movies and the way of life for TV is changing, hugely. And luckily, it feels like theatre has is the sort of steady ship among those art forms. It's like it never changes, but it never changes in a sort of glorious way. It's a steady thing, and the fact that Shakespeare plays are reproduced again and again and again and again, and by generation after generation, that we keep finding new things. I think that speaks to theatre in general. There is something constant in it, which luckily is alive and well, and that certainly has been a massive part of my growing up, and continues to be a massive part of my life, as demonstrated by being here. So I think it's a massive part of the cultural makeup of the country. How much impact it has, I don't know. That's a different question. But yeah, it's there.
Okay, next question, that was a great answer. I'm probably going to get to use that as the clip. But the next question I have happens to deal with theater as a political stance. I think that in my own experience, I've noticed that a lot of theater today has to do with a lot with current politics. It's a reason why people have their lineup of shows a specific way, and certain artistic directors line it up purposely that way, so that you see the kind of importance of it. Like we just saw Oslo over at I don't remember where we saw it, but we just saw it over there. We didn't see it at the National.
Yeah.
But we noticed that it was the timing of it. We also saw the show called The Firm at the Hampstead.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant. But again, it played into the politics. So I wanted to know your opinion on theater as a political statement.
The job I did at the beginning of this year was at the Donmar Warehouse called The Irresistible Rise of Arturo Ui, which is all about the rise. It's based around the sort of the rise of Hitler and how he sort of obtained the position that he obtains. And it does it through the mirror of setting it in 1930 Chicago gangsters. We took that same angle that Brecht sort of created, this idea of the gangsters, but we made it hugely active with the audience that were there. We involved the audience a huge amount of the show. We took out all the theatre seats. It was all like a speakeasy in the Donmar. We chatted to the audience as they came in. We used them in the show throughout as dead bodies, as people in the court case, and so that by the end, the idea was that they were given a choice whether to resist Ui's triumph at the end or not. And if they wanted to resist, they had to pick up their chairs and place it in the centre of the stage. And so this was different every single night. Who would do it, if there would be a solitary resistance, or whether suddenly they'd be joined by loads of people. Like it was totally alive and active and really powerful. And it was happening at the same time as the election in this country. So there was this amazing thing that I've never felt, and I don't think it's always the case, but this wonderful sense of the theatre that we were doing, the play that we were doing, being actively used in the moment by the people watching it to process and obtain a sort of greater clarity about the political landscape. So it was all about Donald Trump, essentially. It was full of, the guy adapted it, whose name is going to escape, Bruce Norris, who did Glybourne Park, and he did the adaptation. Okay. So he changed the text to filter in all these sort of Donald Trumpisms, so that the parallels were very clear between, those aspects of Hitler's. It wasn't comparing him to Hitler directly, but just saying there is a similarity in the way, if we don't do anything, people who we don't necessarily agree with will obtain power. So all this is to say that I think when done right, it's very, very satisfying how plays, and particularly plays like Brecht's plays that are like old, can still have a massively pertinent political resonance. And it's very satisfying, but it's quite rare.
Yeah. Okay, final question, because I only have 3. Being here, we always had to pay attention to the different sort of spaces that we were in. We always use space as a way of whether or not it enhances a piece or sort of diminishes a piece. Like when we saw Boudica in the beginning. I don't know if you saw Boudica here.
I missed it. I know what it was.
But yeah, I know you know Gina McKee, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. She was amazing. It was an amazing show. But I firmly believe that seeing it in the globe space, it couldn't be done anywhere else. Mm-hmm. It worked way too well in that space where I could not picture it being moved. And I think that those are the shows that leave an impact when you use the space that effortlessly and that efficiently. Mm-hmm. So what I wanted to ask was a final question as comparing American theater to British theater. I don't know if you've been to American theater and seen like this type of things, but how do you think that the space of different British theaters, because I know you've played at a lot of them, like speaking in the Donmar specifically, like I remember being in there and we just saw The Lady from the Sea. Oh, wow. And I was blown away by the space as well as the actors, but it's such an intimate space without being so intimate, because you know you have those 2 layers, and as an actor I feel like you can play towards that. But comparing British places, comparing the British spaces that you play at, the Globe, the Donmar, the Old Vic, comparing that to the American side, do you think that it really helps to enhance that? And do you think that this is the only place that we can get spaces like that?
Well, it's a good question, only in as much as I think theatre design is a really difficult job. Mm-hmm. Like what the equation is exactly to create something like the Donmar or the Globe where the atmosphere just sort of clicks, right? You sort of go, this makes sense. And it makes sense for the audiences that walk into those spaces. They sort of go, I feel something in it, there's a charge, right? Yeah. And the same as an actor, when you're on the stage, you feel like something about the sort of the theatrical feng shui sort of makes sense. Mm-hmm. And I don't know necessarily what those ingredients are that do that, because there are certainly spaces you work in as an actor. And I don't know whether this is more common in America or England. I haven't worked enough in America to know, but certainly there are plenty here where you walk in as an actor and you sort of go, I don't know how to be in this space. Something feels a bit off. I don't quite know how the relationship works with the audience. And I think we're getting better and better. I think the Globe is a wonderful example that maybe other theatres have taken a sort of hint from, about making the most important thing being that dynamic between your audience and your stage, that fluid dialogue that needs to happen. It's not just about us presenting something to a bunch of people gathered in the dark, that there's something alive and active and exciting about an audience that can sense each other whilst watching something. That's what you get to do.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that, because in the States, something that I've noticed, at least from my own training at Syracuse, we always play to a place of neutrality, and we always think that being very natural means being small. Yeah. Because, you know, as human beings, we don't make such grand gestures that would normally transition to the stage. And I remember that being one of my biggest problems as a starting actor, is finding that sense of being able to be natural without losing an aspect of a character that you would normally not be able to give away. So I thought that's interesting that you find that in the space, certain spaces can do that. Yeah. So I think that that's very interesting.
They made that difficult job of being both believable and natural, as you have to be, but also facing up to the fact that you want the 300, 400, 500 people gathered in a space to be a part of that story. That's difficult. And it's made easier by good theatre design that allows actors to be intimate and also be good at transmitting that story out. And that's not the same in every theatre for sure, but certain theatres like the Globe nail it.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, sir. I'm very greatly appreciative of it. Everyone, this is my dear, awesome director, Philip Cumbus. He is the man, the myth, the legend. Sorry, ladies, he's married, so don't try anything. All right, but thank you so much, sir. I really do appreciate it.